2024 is here and bass anglers all across the world are focused on one thing: catching more fish. Over my 20 years of bass fishing, I have learned 5 key techniques and tips for catching fish more consistently, no matter where I fish, bass boat, kayak, john boat, or anywhere in between. What are those 5 tips? My name's Tyler, and for the very first time here in TRF Studios, let's talk about it.
Another giant. Look at that, y'all.
I can't believe what I just caught.
Yes!
That is right, folks. This awesome studio that I'm filming in right now has been a dream of mine to build for a very long time as a content creator. So when I'm out there making videos for you guys, of course, I can't replicate fishing, whether it's pond fishing, kayak, bass boat, tournaments, whatever. I can't replicate that in a studio, but so much of my content revolves around me beaching the kayak, beaching the boat, power pulling down, and filming videos talking to the camera. And so I thought, why not build a space where I can actually efficiently film for you guys inside? It eliminates weather, whether it's rain or wind or noise from pleasure boats and waves and dogs barking. All of that is eliminated by filming inside, and I'm so pumped. Hopefully you guys are as well. Now, I'm gonna have a whole studio build showing you guys what it looks like behind the camera right now, because let me tell you, it is wild. But that is a topic for an entirely different day. I am so excited to begin filming in this studio. And so let's start with tip number 1 for catching more bass in 2024, and that is that your speed matters. The speed at which you fish your lures, whether it's reaction baits, whether it's soft plastics on the bottom, the speed at which you decide to fish can either make or break your fishing day. And for most of these 5 tips, I'm gonna have B-roll on the screen of some actual stories I'm gonna share of when this tip applied in my fishing life and how I think it can apply for yours in this year and beyond. So for this first one, I'm gonna talk about 2 different fishing trips I had on consecutive years during FLW college tournaments when I was in college fishing on Lake Texoma on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. Now keep in mind the tournament was scheduled for this body of water 2 years in a row about the same time. So the fish should be up shallow, they should be in kind of a spawning or pre-spawn, post-spawn mood. And so in my mind, the pattern for both tournaments was going to be the same. But in both tournaments in practice and in the tournament day, I actually started out doing the wrong speed. In the first year of the tournament on Lake Texoma, I began by dragging a soft plastic worm on a shaky head very, very slow and catching several nice fish on some slate rock. It is a shallow, kind of a flatter surface of a rock, and I was catching good fish doing that. And so I thought, well, if it works during practice, it's gonna work during the tournament. Well, joke's on me, because it absolutely did not. I struggled for the majority of the day, my partner Garrison and I, to catch anything. I think we had maybe 1 keeper in the box with maybe an hour left to go in the day, and we decided to totally ditch the area we were at and go somewhere totally different, throwing a totally different style of lures and going from soft plastic worms dragging slow to throwing a shallow diving crankbait like the one you see here and a spinnerbait, and we absolutely went to wrecking them. Now, it could be explained by the fact that one location was bad and the other was good, but I don't think so, because the fish don't move that fast, especially in Lake Texoma. And so the only explanation in my mind is that we were just fishing the wrong speed for that day. And as soon as we got into a good area and actually fished our lures at the right speed, did we find success. And so around comes the next year on the same body of water. And I thought, well, in practice, I'm gonna start by fishing the same area with the same types of lures, again, because the conditions kind of line up for that. And so I went to the same banks. Me and Garrison threw square bills, we threw spinnerbaits, and we got 0 bites. And so I was confused. So I stayed in the same area because I knew that it's historically a good area of the lake that holds fish, but I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna throw a Texas rig. I'm gonna drag, I think it was a Strike King Space Monkey with the claws dipped in chartreuse JJ's Magic. And as soon as we started doing that, we started finding the fish were up shallow spawning. And after we figured that out, we went on to have the best college tournament of my entire career, almost winning the dang thing if I hadn't have broken off 1 fish. Now, I can't guarantee that actually would have won us the tournament, but in my mind, I'm gonna say so. And so the reason why I shared those 2 fishing day stories is because I think they exemplified exactly what I'm talking about when the speed of your retrieve matters. I think on both of those days, I could have tried one type of retrieve, maybe because it's my confidence lure, or I've been catching them on that lately, and so I'm gonna throw the same lures that's been working for me. And that could have turned out to be a bad fishing day. And I could have showed up to the boat ramp at the very end, the way in, and I am telling everybody, man, they're just not biting today. But everybody else could have figured out the pattern and proved me wrong. And so I'm just glad that at some point during each of those tournaments, I decided to try a little bit faster or a little bit slower, and it led to success. So I don't care in 2024 if you're a pond angler, a bass boat, a kayak, john boat, private water, public water, if you are not finding success with a lure in a certain area and you believe there are fish fish in that area, I would recommend the first change you make is change your speed of retrieve, your speed of type of lure, as opposed to changing locations. And I think in 2024, that's gonna yield you a lot more fish. And that brings us to tip number 2 for 2024 to catch more fish, and that is you have to get up early. I mean, maybe there's some bodies of water or fish out there. I can think of like some Canadian smallmouth or fish in Florida on certain times of the year that the time of the day you fish really doesn't matter. But I mean, unless it's like dead cold of winter, I don't think getting up early is to your detriment. It could be just a kind of a net zero, but most of the time, bass, for whatever reason, I can tell you about the post-spawn, the hot here in a second, but during all times of the year, bass just like to feed during periods of low light. And I have found that sunrise is better than sunset for periods of low light. And so that's for kind of all times of the year. Get up early, get to the lake before sunrise, unless of course it's freezing or dangerous. But especially when it comes to late spring, so the post-spawn, the summer, the fall, the morning bite is always going to be better. So I know you're gonna be tired. Your kids are probably whining during the night. Your baby's crying. I know all about that. I just had a kid, at least when this video dropped 7 days ago. He's one week old at this point. So I know all about the grind of waking up early in the morning when you don't want to, but I can promise you it is worth it. The fish bite better in the morning, and oftentimes they don't bite hardly at all after an hour or two after the sun rises. And so if you're gonna make one fishing New Year's resolution, I would say it should be to get up a whole lot earlier than you've been doing before and just make a commitment to make that happen this year, because whether it's post-spawn, you're throwing topwater and frogs, getting after the shad spawn, or it is just summertime, and with like very few exceptions, it is hot across the country, and the fish just plain out bite better. Is plain out a word? Flat out, that's what I was going for. They flat out bite better when it is not as hot outside. The water temperature overnight has cooled down. And so I could ramble on and on again, but I'm just telling you, get out there a lot earlier this year. Now, 2 tips done, time to move on to number 3, which I don't have a specific story for, but it is extra crucial to understand mentally why this is important. And that is that if your knot is not good, tie it again. And I got this idea to remind you guys about this from Tyler Berger in his daily videos channel he's doing right now. And he talked about the fact that there's so many good fishing knots out there that work for you, whether it's monofilament braid, fluorocarbon. I tie the Palomar for everything, but I understand that knot doesn't work for everybody. Everybody has their own confidence knot. And so tie whatever works for you. But the number one thing I'd say that's gonna keep you from losing a whole bunch of fish on the hook sets is if the knot doesn't quite feel right when you're tightening it and cinching it down, snip it off and tie it again, especially on resin lines like monofilament and fluorocarbon. Braid, you can kind of get away with a less good knot, unless of course it slips. But I can remember at least a few times over my fishing journey of when I didn't tie a good knot and I knew it, I was in a rush, I wanted to get my lure back out there, and whether it was a connection knot from braid to fluorocarbon or just a knot straight to the lure, and I wasn't confident about it, oftentimes that is kind of your brain telling you that wasn't right, that knot is not tied correctly, and so the potential of breaking off is there because line can easily get frayed, can easily get burned if you tie it incorrectly. So 1, learn to tie better knots, and 2, if you tie a bad one, make sure you put the effort in. I know we might get lazy out there, we just want to get back to fishing, but put the effort into tying a brand new knot, and I promise you're not going to lose near as many fish. Now, tip number 4 for catching more bass in the year 2024 is going to be to fish with somebody better than you. And I'm gonna say that again, don't get this twisted. You need to fish with somebody better at fishing than you. Not some bozo who's got a $100,000 bass boat and all the live scope transducers you could ever need, because that might not necessarily be a better fisherman. I'm talking about a bank fisherman, a kayak angler especially, somebody who spends a lot of time on the water. Could be your dad, could be your uncle, could be somebody brand new. Reach out to them, befriend them, and go fishing with them, because I promise you're gonna understand so much more about your bodies of water and advance in your skills. I would say far beyond watching YouTube videos. By fishing with somebody who's been where you are, who understands the bodies of water better, who's made the mistakes you have yet to make, that is going to make you an infinitely better angler. When I was younger, a friend of mine named Austin Ellis, I've probably passed him up in fishing knowledge since then. He might decline to answer on that, but he was kind of like the first guy that I fished with around my age that was better than me. And then as soon as I joined, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, my first local bass club, it was all the old old guys in the local bass club. I think of Brian Cotter. I think about Jerry Potter. Their names rhyme now that I think about it. And in fishing with all the old guys in my bass club, I learned so much more. Again, this was pre-technology. Just by being in their presence and fishing with them on their boats, I learned so much about the bodies of water that I lived around that I could not get by watching YouTube, by reading magazines. The only way was to fish with somebody who was better at fishing than me. And nowadays, I have a pretty awesome job and a pretty awesome best friend in that my best friend is Alton Jones Jr. and on the Bass Pro Tour, I get to travel with him, stay with him and his dad, a Bassmaster Classic champion, Alton Jones, and I get to understand and be in the water, on the water in their boat with them, and they are infinitely better anglers than I could ever be. Matter of fact, a lot of the information I learn from them, I'm in turn giving to you guys here on YouTube, and I run almost all my video topics by the two of them on tour. That way I know I'm giving you guys good information, again, from anglers who are better than myself. So I don't care how small of a town you live in, I guarantee you can find an angler that's better than you who can teach you a lot about fishing in 2024. And tip number 5 for catching more bass in 2024 is going to be, when in doubt, throw a drop shot. Now, if you are unaware of what the drop shot is, first of all, make 2024 the year you learn. And I've got a drop shot masterclass. I will leave it linked down in the video description. So pause this video right now and go watch that video. But I have just seen in tournament fishing and in my own fishing journey, year after year, the drop shot catches more and more fish. Y'all are gonna see a video come out on my channel where I compare the drop shot to the Texas rig. And I don't wanna spoil it too much, but I'm just telling you, the drop shot catches some fish. I think it's because the fish are in our bodies of water. Again, I don't care if it's ponds or rivers or lakes, whatever. I think the fish are suspending more in those bodies of water, or at least because of forward-facing sonar, we're finding out the fish suspend a lot more. And so the drop shot, keeping a worm a foot to 3 foot off the bottom in the column, is an infinitely better way, I think, to get a bite than a Texas rig. Now, of course, Texas rigs are great. In many circumstances, the drop shot would not work. But if you're gonna just go out there and catch bass, a drop shot is a fantastic lure if you're gonna pick a soft plastic to throw basically all water conditions, all weather conditions, especially winter and summer. If it's like dirt, muddy water, then probably don't throw a drop shot. But if you have stained to clear water, a drop shot can be killer. And 2 stories I'm gonna share about the drop shot. The first one being my favorite dock skipping lake ever in Minnesota. The water was low 2 years ago. And so I go there expecting to skip docks. Well, the water was so low that the fish had all pulled out onto one location. And I threw a Texas rig, I threw a crankbait, and I think I caught 1 or 2 fish. And as soon as I pulled out the drop shot, it was like 2 hours, almost every cast after cast, catching like 2 to 5 pound largemouth on a drop shot. And it was some of the most fun I've had in my entire life. And my second story has to do with a pond fishing day where I was filming a winter tips video. And I found out the drop shot, especially in clear ponds, is a killer to catch bass in the wintertime. And so if you're not throwing a drop shot in 2024, you need to be. Well, that's gonna be it, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that video. I am excited for 2024. I am pumped to have all kinds of content here in this studio, and an awesome announcement. I will be having my first ever YouTube live stream here in the studio on my channel this Saturday or Sunday night, not exactly sure when. Stay tuned to social medias and the YouTube community tab to find out exactly when it's gonna be. I'm gonna be giving away some fishing lures, and we're gonna talk fishing, answer comments, and have an all around good time. My name's Tyler. If you wanna see either of the drop shot days, I will leave those 2 videos up here in the corner, and we're gonna see you guys next time right here on TRF. I just realized I was like slightly crooked the entire time. I gotta film, what are we doing here, right here? Okay, I'll get it next time, I promise. I guess I've gotta be, yeah, I guess I've gotta be right here. All right.